can accept or absorb the ramifications.
Definitely.
For instance, from my history, for the bulk of Christians 50 years ago, I can tell you that the idea of alien contact was absurd. But then came Eric von Daniken with his Chariots of the Gods, and Zachariah Sitchin with his Earth Chronicles series. And what at first felt like a challenge to orthodoxy caused scholars on both, on all sides of the aisle, the religious, the secular, to begin, and the government, to begin asking the question, what are UFOs? Now, if they are something besides figments of the imagination, people misinterpreting, seeing Venus in the night sky and thinking that they're seeing something, or even top secret military aircraft under design that have not yet been made public.
Yeah, that's right.
If ufology is something besides that, if there is something to it that is almost borderline supernatural that we cannot put our fingers on, and yet it's real and it happens, what would the effect be on religion if we were suddenly faced with the reality that we are not the sole higher intelligence in the universe? And this was the question that was raised by some of these guys like Sitchin and von Daniken. In communities of orthodoxy who had never taken the time to ask the question, what are UFOs? What are aliens? What is some of this paranormal phenomenon? But all of a sudden, what was happening back in the 60s was that people were reading these books. In the 60s, von Daniken's book *Chariot of the Gods* became an international bestseller.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and it caused many of the professors in their Bible colleges. Students were coming to them saying, well, what is this? What is this about? And now all of a sudden they had to answer questions they'd never had to answer before.
Yeah, that's right.
And it caused them to have to take a hard look at the phenomenon and to decide for themselves what it was. Many of them, at least in the more conservative field, fell into these, I think, overly simplistic interpretations of angelology and demonology, but there were others who said, okay, maybe part of it could be comparable to angelology, maybe part of it could be compared to demonology, but there is this other something. And what, and so you've got a few guys out there like Mike Heiser and some others who have been bold enough and willing enough to say there could be something entirely different here. That is occurring, and that we have not put our fingers on. Now, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, early on in the 70s, he was one of the first Bible college presidents, and he wrote the book *The Cosmic Conspiracy*. Are you familiar with that book?
Yeah, I've heard the title. I've never read it, but no.
Yeah. And I've sat down with, Dr. Thomas is a Quintarian now. He's 80-some years old. He lives down in California. I've sat down and had lunch with him. In fact, I'm going to republish his book. It's went out of print because his publisher went bankrupt. But I've sat down with him, and he said, I had all these students coming to me asking me what this is, and I didn't have no answers, and there wasn't anything written about it, so I had to do the work. And so he wrote this book. And it's for 30 years. It's been his best-selling book. But then but now, more recently, you have Vatican astronomers like Guy Cosmologo last year, releasing this whole series of publications dealing with the possibility of extraterrestrials or multidimensional intelligence. And he doesn't just hint. He comes out and says in his Intelligent Life in the Universe, Catholic Belief and the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligent Life, which was published by a publisher owned by the Vatican, he comes out and says that we are now facing a greater than not possibility of extraterrestrial contact with intelligence.
Oh, my.
He's not talking about microbiological life forms. He's talking about intelligence that can communicate with us.
Yeah, indeed.
And I think I was on Coast to Coast a couple of weeks ago, and usually I'm on with George Norrie, but this time I was on with Art Bell. I said to Art Bell, I said, do you find it interesting, given what you asked Malachi Martin on your show in 1997? And remember, Father Malachi, he placed a time frame of about 10 years on his feelings that what was or is approaching the earth was going to be of great importance within 5 to 10 years. Now think about this. This was 1997, and Art Bell on Coast to Coast asked Malachi Martin why the Vatican was heavily invested in the study of deep space at Mount Graham Observatory in southeastern Arizona. And Martin he was a retired professor of the Pontifical Biblical Institute. He was uniquely qualified to hold in secret information pertaining to the Vatican's Advanced Technology Telescope project at Mount Graham International Observatory. And his answer ignited a firestorm among ufologists, because when Art Bell said, why is the Vatican so heavily invested in the study of deep space, Father Martin said, because the mentality of those at the highest levels of Vatican administration and geopolitics know what is going on in space and what is approaching us, and that it could be of the greatest importance next 5 to 10 years. And now those cryptic words, what's approaching us, could be of the greatest importance in the next 5 to 10 years, was followed in these subsequent interviews with discussions of this mysterious sign in the sky that Father Malachi said was approaching the earth from the north. Now, Martin was not a crackpot. He was an eminent Catholic theologian, recognized by the New York Times and everybody who did his books as one of the leading thinkers at that time. But he was also a maverick. He was willing to talk about things that I'm sure the Vatican wished he would have shut up about.
Yeah. So this is interesting, because this is one thing that I did want to get you to today with in regards to the connection, of course, obviously with the year 2012 and all of this. And let's say if we were to take Malachi Martin, let's say 10 years from 97, we'll end up around 2007. Sorry, I'm totally missing the idea here. But this, of course, leading up. Now we go from 2007. We have 5 years up to 2012. Do you see this increase, as you say, in this kind of information? And what do you think about the year 2012 with all of this?
Well, the point that I was making about Father Malachi Martin is he said this could be of the greatest importance within 5 to 10 years. Well, if you add 10 years to 1997, you wind up at 2007.
Yeah, that's right.
This year.
Yeah, that's right.
And is it any coincidence that this year, the 10-year anniversary of the end of Malachi's time frame, that the Vatican, for the first time, is discussing now shutting down that? And is it because that they learned everything they needed to know? I don't know, but it seems ironic to me that 10 years almost to the day, now we're discovering second Earths.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
Vatican astronomers are publishing these treatises letting the faithful know that if ET contact occurs, it's not going to be a challenge to their faith or to the authority of Rome. And something I think that the good Father Malachi Martin would have also found extraordinary is now this science for cross-blending species, not only reminiscent of what the Watchers did with the Nephilim, and maybe also comparable to what other dimensional beings that we call aliens have been doing for reasons unknown. That we're at the we have emerging before us right now the technology to open portals of perception that before now were unknown except to the gods of mythology, such as Quetzalcoatl in Mayan mythology. And now, the year 2012, it's interesting because among the legends of these multidimensional beings, there was this method that existed whereby, at least at times, they could move from behind their gateways through statues, persons, flying winged discs along heavenly sky locations into Earth's reality.
Mm.
And this even goes into hermetic iconography, where you have the beginning and ending points of the sky that are positioned where the ecliptic, the pathway of the sun,
Mm-hmm.
crosses the Milky Way.
Mm.
And now ancient descriptions depict the distance between those points as a snake called the Ouroboros, or the tail devourer, encompassing the heavens and swallowing its tail.
Yeah,
that's
right.
one of the oldest mystical symbols in the world. You can find it in Aztec, Chinese, Native American mythologies, other mythologies.
That's right.
In alchemical symbolism, the mouth of the snake is viewed as a place of arrival and departure of spirit beings, gods, angels, higher self, who use this wormhole or Stargate to navigate dimensions of heaven. For example, this god Quetzalcoatl, and now this is the most well-known deity of the Aztecs and Mayans, also called Kukulkan, who is portrayed as either being or entering the Ouroboros on these Aztec and Toltec ruins. Now, there's also some renderings of Quetzalcoatl where a ladder is seen descending from the ecliptic.
Yeah, that's right.
Such as when Quetzalcoatl descends from the sky on a rope ladder.
Yeah.
As he's also prophesied to do in the year 2012.
That's right.
The so-called end of times, or at least the end of that time.
Yeah.
The reopening of the serpent portal, the end of the great cycle of the Maya calendar and the planetary cycle of the Aztec calendar, December 21, 2012.
Yeah.
Now, isn't it interesting that you have these other influences? For instance, the Bible, according to the book The Bible Code, the world is going to end on December 21, 2012, due to a collision with a meteor or an asteroid or a comet. You have another theory called the novelty theory that claims that time itself is a fractal wave, which is going to end abruptly in 2012, and so on.
The Terence McKenna.
The Maya have a different theory. They describe these past visits of Quetzalcoatl, feathered serpent. And also another thing, by the way, that's interesting, and I cover a little bit of this in the book Nephilim Stargates, is that according to some, that feathered equates to flying technology.
Yeah, that's right.
While serpent refers to the heavenly wormhole Stargate. Flying technology and Stargate technology.
That's right. Interesting. Yeah, that's the connection here that going back to the ancient mythologies, and especially I guess the Maya, but as you say, there's so many things almost on a converging point at that time, it seems like, and even as you say, there are certain types of technologies like the huge particle accelerators are going in. I think this year, like Alice and Atlas are being implemented, the super colliders, particle accelerators, and that also potentially might be a connection, I guess, to all of this that you're talking about, and leading up again to the year 2012. There aren't so many years left, and who knows what's going to happen down the road here.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're searching for the God particle.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Find it. And they might find it. And maybe the Mayans are telling them they're going to find it, because their prophecy is that in 2012 this serpent rope is going to emerge again from the center of the Milky Way, and Quetzalcoatl is going to return to mark the end of one age and the beginning of another age.
Do you think that
now there's a part in my book, and it's a guest chapter actually by David Flynn.
Yeah.
But he ties the year 2012 and the return of Quetzalcoatl with the Roswell 1947 event. And I won't give up